Welcome back to JW World News. My name is Vern, and today we have some cutting news. It's only a few hours old, and this news really goes to show us what's going on in the mindset of the whole world when it comes to Jehovah's Witnesses. So let's take a look at this. We're going to first of all open up small screen here, and I'm going to show you where the news, it's an RNZ report, investigation out of New Zealand. But first of all, we're going to go to the area that this is found, and it's from a place called Australasia. And it's used in the article.
Australasia.
Now, I'm going to put the desktop on so you can hear that.
Australasia.
Because I know I say things wrong. So that Australasia, in case you're wondering where that's from, It covers Australia, New Zealand. It also covers Polynesia, Melanesia, Micronesia. So it has some big effects. It covers a large area. So this is important news to Jehovah's Witnesses, because this news is going all over Australasia. Now, I wanted to know where Australasia was, so I went to the JW website, like all of us should go to and check out. And so I plugged that in, and there's a lot of places there. If you look at the map, Niue, if I say that wrong, they have a branch. Cook Islands, they have a branch. American Samoa, Timor-Leste. Now, pardon me if I'm saying these things wrong, but it's right there on the screen. Tonga, Samoa, New Zealand, Australia. So there's a lot at stake here for Jehovah's Witnesses when we look at Australasia, and that's where this news is floating around, and it's big news there. So I went further. I wanted to know how many publishers are in Australasia. They couldn't tell me. I went all over their site. They couldn't tell anything, and I don't know if they publicize that stuff anymore. They just show here how many Jehovah's Witnesses there are worldwide, and they claim that they have 8.7 million. Jehovah's Witnesses. They claim they have 117,000.9 congregations, and they claim they're in 239 lands. Now, let's get to the news. So, the news, Australasia, this is big news. It's a big part of the world, and folks, this is just showing us the domino effect that's happening here. And in New Zealand, it's just small. There's only, apparently the news I'm reading says there's only 20,000 Jehovah's Witnesses in New Zealand. And let's look at this article. I'm going to pull it up on the big screen so you guys can follow along. And it's right here. So it says RNZ investigation reveals 11 alleged pedophiles active within the Jehovah's Witnesses. And this is just 7:34 a.m. today. That came in at about 9 o'clock our time. So this news is only 5 hours old. And I want to say where the news came from. It came from Watching Watchtower. And if you haven't heard of Watching Watchtower, you hear the noise in the background. And they kind of scroll through it. They give you kind of a highlight on it if you look at how they do it. And this shows the article I'm going to read here. And yeah, well, thank you, Watching Watchtower. We really appreciate your hard work. We don't know who you are. And, we just think the best of you. So thank you. Now I'm going to move on to the article. And you guys, as an audience, if you can subscribe to Watching Watchtower, that really boosts the confidence of our hidden creators that are doing a lot of work for us. So now let's carry on with the article. It says the Jehovah's Witnesses have a number of pedophiles within their ranks, unbeknownst to most people in the organization, in the church, the Kingdom Hall. They call Kingdom Halls churches. So it says an RNZ investigation has found 11 active Jehovah's Witnesses have child sex abuse convictions or serious allegations made against them. And most members of the religion appear to have no idea who the offenders are. Now, folks, this is new news. Like, after all of these years, you'd think Jehovah's Witnesses, JW.org, would have went in and cleaned this mess up themselves. It's all going to get exposed, and it's happening. Now, here it is. The identities of the men and the congregations they belong to are not being identified by RNZ in order to protect the victims. In all cases, RNZ has spoken to either the victim, a close family member, or viewed Jehovah's Witness records confirming the convictions or confessions of the abuse. Now, RNZ is carrying this whole thing all the way through, and if you go on there, I'll put the link in, and you can go on, and we already ran one of the articles, and we ran the video. So we're going to run what's in here today. You're not going to see anything over. If you want to see the old article, just go back to one of the previous videos. I call it Wicked. Yeah, something wicked is what we call it. That's the series. Now, RNZ's reporting suggests that most members of the congregation, the men currently attend, have no idea of their convictions, confessions, or allegations they have faced. 4 of the men have spent time in prison for their offending, which ranges from possession of child pornography to indecent assault of a child. A further 6 have faced serious allegations including incestual rape, child molestation, sexual harassment of a minor, and sex with a minor. And the alleged victims say church elders, equivalent to a priest or minister, knew about the allegations, but none were ever reported to the police. And this is new news, folks. This is current time. Jehovah's Witnesses, JW.org, has not learned their lesson. So it goes on to say 2 of the accused men have since themselves become elders. 2 of these guys became elders or ministerial servants. And we all know ministerial servants is the same as an elder in training. So the Jehovah's Witness Australasia, which oversees New Zealand congregations, did not respond, of course. Of course they're not going to respond. They didn't respond to any of the questions, but in a statement they said it abhors child abuse and views it as a crime. That's what you see. That's what they're saying, but their actions are different. They're opposite. They say that, but their actions are opposite. And they go on to say that in all cases, victims and their parents of minors have the right to report an accusation of child abuse to the authorities. Now, that's another lie. And therefore, the victims, their parents, or anyone else who reports such accusations to elders are clearly informed by the elders that they have the right to report the matter to the authorities. A lie. Because the elders go right to the Bethel. They go right to the like in Canada here, they go to the Canadian Bethel. And the Canadian Bethel says, we don't want to bring reproach on Jehovah. Handle this behind the scenes. Handle it privately. Don't bring this out in the public. And that's what they're saying. They're hiding it. So it says, elders do not criticize anyone who chooses to make such a report. The church, this is what they're saying. This Tom Pesalowski. And he's the spokesman, lawyer, or whatever for the Jehovah's Witness. It says here there are about 20,000 followers of the Jehovah's Witness religion in New Zealand. Now, I couldn't find that on the website, but the news article found it. And they said spread across approximately 170 congregations. The Christian faith followers worship Jehovah as a god. They believe we are living in the final days before the end of humanity as we currently know it. And this is, again, this governing body talking. Well, it says that a governing body of the 9 men in New York provide direction for the church worldwide. Well, they claim that they're God's only spokesman for the whole world. Now, it says more from this investigation. There's a couple of links there. We already covered one. Now, here it is, some of the stories. I looked him up and was terrified. A current member of the South Island congregation said she no longer felt safe attending church meetings after learning a few months ago a convicted pedophile was an active member. Janet, who was born into the religion, was new to the congregation after recently moving towns. She said she only found out about the man's past when a close friend who knew Janet had been molested as a child by a fellow church member, and it alerted her. She says, I looked up to him and was terrified, Janet said. And the man had spent time in jail for historical sexual abuse of young girls in his former congregation. He was excommunicated following his convictions, but had since rejoined the church, or the Kingdom Hall. And the pedophile's name, Janet's real name, and the congregation they both attend is not identified in order to protect Janet, who fears being thrown out of the church, thrown out of the Kingdom Hall, and shunned. She was speaking out. However, because she felt it was wrong that most of the congregation did not know about the man's past. And there are young children in the congregation, and I have a child. Last month, she raised her concerns with two elders who asked her why she had stopped attending meetings. And she says, I told them that I physically shake at the thought of coming to the meetings. It makes me physically ill. And she says, the meetings are supposed to be a haven. While the elders insisted that the meetings were a safe space and quoted passages from the Bible, telling her that she must forgive the man, she said. They told me that he was doing the right thing and he had every right to be at the meeting, and that I'd lost my faith because I hadn't been attending the meetings. So here you go, typical Jehovah's Witness, turn it on the victim. You see, the man should be in psychological counseling. He should be in child abuse therapy done by the government properly. And if the man is a threat to society, he may have to be removed from going to kingdom halls. They may have to put him in like it's like an AA group for these pedophiles that are addicted to this stuff. They have to rehabilitate. And the kingdom hall thinks rehabilitating is going out in the field ministry and visiting other children out there. Like, that's what the kingdom hall thinks. That's what Watchtower thinks. And so here they turned it on the girl. Isn't that a shame? They insisted that she should be at the meetings, and if she didn't go to the meetings, she lost her faith. So the girl says, I felt very uncomfortable and unprotected. Janet said the elders told her the rest of the congregation would only be told about the man's past if it was necessary. They told me, do you take your kids shopping? You don't know who might be shopping. These people are everywhere. There was no evidence the man had reoffended, but she worried young families in her new congregation might not be safe. Everybody should know. Why would you want a pedophile knocking on your door? Exactly. It goes on to say they accepted him with open arms. Another man who is accused of molesting 3 young girls in the 1990s now holds a senior position in the congregation. The girl's father, John, said his eldest daughter was 9 at the time of the alleged offending. The man was a relative who had lived with the family for several years. John said he only found out several years later, after his eldest told him and his wife, Jane, the man had sexually abused her. They approached the man and he confessed, said John. He was made to leave home and we got help for our daughter. John left the church soon after and split from his wife, who remained in the religion. The alleged perpetrator left the religion for several years, said John. But he eventually went back to the church and they accepted him with open arms. So that's what happens. They accept the pedophiles back in. Because Jehovah's Witnesses love it. Someone gets disfellowshipped or leaves, but if they come back, it's like a win. They won over Satan is how they feel. But here they're unaware that they're welcoming in a pedophile because he was never dealt with, and the congregation hid this from the police. So this man has never been fixed. He's never had therapy, and this is the whole problem within the JW.org religion. So anyways, it says he eventually went back to the Kingdom Hall, and they accepted him, the pedophile, with open arms. But they make the victims. They tell the victim, well, you've lost your faith in Jehovah if you're not coming to the meetings to be around these pedophiles. And that's how twisted this religion is. Now, in 2010, the man joined another congregation. A former elder in that congregation at the time, who RNZ agreed not to name, says he read a letter from the man's old congregation that detailed his past. And the letter said that in the mid-1990s, as a teenager, he molested 3 girls. He had confessed, and the elders knew about it. Never went to the police. The letter said it was consensual. I remember thinking, how can it be consensual? How can children agree to that? So, yeah. You see, a lot of these pedophiles, they think that it's consensual. A little kid, it's not consensual. So anyways, these people need help. But here's what the concerned elders do. The concerned elders contacted the churches, or the Bethel, the Australian headquarters, is how they do it, the branch office, for advice. But were told that the offending was historic and it was no longer an issue. This is what the former elder claimed. This is what Bethel's legal department, this is how they deal with this kind of stuff. Well, the issue, however, caused him to start questioning the Kingdom Hall's policies, and he finally left in 2013, he said. The abuser, meanwhile, was now a ministerial servant, he claimed. And some years later, John said he discovered the man had also abused his 2 daughters, but his ex-wife had kept it from him. Isn't that something? A lot of creepiness. A former Jehovah's Witness said she was constantly hugged and touched in a really inappropriate places by elders in her Waikato congregation. She says, I know that other people would see it, but they, the elders, were higher up, and you just don't question them, said Lisa, who left the religion 5 years ago when she was a teenager. There was a lot of creepiness from a lot of the elders. It was something me and my sisters were really uncomfortable with. They would come and be really close to you and hold you just above your bum and touch you there or kiss you and really close to your lips. When a man in her congregation started pursuing her and sending her inappropriate texts, she approached 2 elders for help, but they did nothing, she said. I just wasn't dealt with. I was just left on my own to deal with it. It's really terrifying, especially as a young girl, when you feel or when you are asking for help and there's just none. So can you imagine this young girl reaching out to the elders for help and getting none, and they just ignore it? You see, the Jehovah's Witness organization, they should not be a charity, because all charity religions have to have some kind of a family servicing, a professional family servicing where women are involved in the congregation, and Jehovah's Witnesses won't do that. So therefore, they can no longer be a charity. They can no longer they don't know how to deal with orphans or widows. They have no orphanages. They don't help people. They just print literature. And again, if you guys haven't seen our petition in this email, go to the descriptions. We have a petition here in Canada to shut down charity religions that abuse children. So now, here's the next story, the code. Brad Miller, a former Jehovah's Witness who left the church in November of 2021, said there was a code to alert parents to the presence of sex offenders at an assembly of congregations in Telkuti and several others. It was delivered via an announcement urging parents to escort their children around the premise, Miller said. And you'd hear that quite a lot. Sometimes a senior member of the JW org would also have the job of keeping an eye on the known sex offenders at these meetings, he said. And most congregation members would not have been aware of what the message meant. And he only found out because his father and grandfather were elders and had once let it slip. So this private code. So there was a man in his own congregation who was alleged to have abused at least 2 girls, but it was never reported to the police, said Miller. The man had since died, but as a child, Miller remembered spending time at his house for social occasions. It makes me angry now to think of it, that we were put in such unsafe conditions. And we did play a movie on our last video, Brad Miller. So if you haven't watched that, you can watch it. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses respond to this. Here's their response, the Watchtower's response. The church declined to be interviewed and did not respond to the questions about the individual cases. What's new? How can you respond to this stuff as a religious organization? How? Now, it goes on to say here, this Pesavapakowski said, this JW lawyer from their branch, he says, if you have information you believe will assist the Abuse in Care Royal Commission of Inquiry in fulfilling its mandate, we must trust you will share it with them. That's what he said. If you have information you believe will assist the Abuse in Care in fulfilling its mandate, we trust you will share it with them. That's what he said in a statement. So they have information and they're going to share it. They're sharing it right now. Likewise, if you believe there is a risk a child will be harmed, we trust you will report the matter to authorities. What else can Jehovah's Witnesses say? It says some names have been changed to protect the safety and well-being of the affected people. So this is all over the world, folks. This is a dirty religion. It's for its cover-ups. And now they're telling, if you find stuff, like they don't even if the governments have to go in and start finding this stuff and researching records and looking at all this, they're going to shut this religion down as a charity. It's not doing its due diligence in keeping pedophiles out of harm's way. So this is very clear. So watch the Brad and Casey story. It's on this email. I already played it in my last video. And these things are all copyrights. So when we run these articles and it's dealing with pedophiles and CSA, we can't monetize this stuff. So we just take monetizing off because it just causes issues on our channel. And so we look at this, it's more of a free service. And this is what we're bringing to the community, our ex-JW community, and to the JWs out there. It gives you guys the rest of the story. Now, I was once one, and maybe you're one still, or you're halfway one, but they don't show any of this stuff on the internet. I always go to the JW.org site, and I give them a fair chance, and I look at their literature, and I'm just reading what's in the world news. So please don't take offense. I'm really just doing everyone a service, and we're trying to do what we can on this side to help those wake up. Ones perhaps like you that's watching, to really wake up and look at this religion as a religion, just like the Catholic Church, just like the Mormon Church. They're all really no different. They all have fallacies and weaknesses. And Jesus didn't even say to start these religions. It wasn't part of the plan. They just came about. And now they're falling down. And you and I, as ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, we would believe that to be Babylon the Great falling. And we see that today. It's silent. 2 Catholic dioceses went bankrupt in Pennsylvania because of CSA cases. So this is just the start of it, folks. I think now is a good time, if you are a Jehovah's Witness, start looking at this. If you're an elder, to call a lawyer. And if you've been privy to CSA cases, you want to talk to your lawyer about that. You may have a legal lawsuit against the Watchtower for instructing you to cover this up. This all has to happen, folks. It's all going to happen. And we are going to report the news on it. So until next time, keep living your life with love. Bye for now.